I don't want to hear
MVP.
Hits one in the air, left center field, back it goes. Harper, the swing of his life.
You never get ahead of yourself. As
I know Rangers do every day. It's always been that way for me. Always been a get better mentality every day, grow every day, be a better leader every day, be a better quarterback every day. And when that wrench do, I don't plan on missing no payments. So.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3 in the Keystone, episode 118. Al Ryan, top left corner, Chris Guest down at the bottom, and your host, Adam Seltzer, on the top right. Gents, we got a big show tonight. There are a lot of things we could have opened with. We have the Phillies getting eliminated by the Mets. We have the Eagles getting a boring victory over the Browns. Nick Sirianni, going off in the press conference, yelling at the fans. Paul George gets injured. Joel Embiid's not playing back-to-backs for the rest of his career. Flyers are off to a hot start. A lot of things we could have gone with, but we thought it would be a good opportunity, guys, to just do a roundtable of where we are in Philly sports and where we're going. I think that was probably the best way to do this. Now, we did this about 8 months ago, but let's be real, shit changes.
Oh, a lot has changed in 8 months. Except for our intro, which at this point, guys, I'm willing.
It makes me mad. It pisses me off.
I'm willing to pay money. If you're listening right now, I will pay you money. I will Venmo you money to record us a new intro. We need something different.
It makes me even more mad every time I hear it. Those of you guys listening on the audio version, it's not the actual tune you hear beforehand, but if you listen to the video, there is a video with some Philadelphia sports highlights that we have.
No, I am talking about Guest crusty ass beat.
Listen, I gave you guys like 6 other beats to put on there, and you all ghosted me for it. So that's what we get. Yeah, that's the classic about Jalen Hurts. I got no issues with the beat that he ain't made yet.
No, I like the beat. Guess is that what your middle school football team comes out to on the field? Do you practice to that?
No, but I did ask the coach for the team he played last week if I can get his mixtape because he had a hot mixtape. He was like, "No, you can get that."
Instead of a jersey exchange, a little mixtape exchange at the end.
He said it just like that too. Nah, you ain't getting that. All right, guys. Listen, before we get going tonight, I want to hit you guys with a little trivia question. It's not Philadelphia related, but something that I saw and caught my eye. I'm curious if you guys know who the top 4 NFL teams are this year in regards to point differential.
Commanders.
Not correct. In terms of, I'm assuming you mean positive point differential. Yes, correct. The top 4 for positive point differential.
Vikings.
The Vikings are number 1.
Texans
are not in it. So the Vikings are number 1. They are at plus 63. Bottom line is nobody's good this year, so I don't even care who this is. And there's a reason why I'm asking. So
the Bucks.
The Bucks are not in it. They're plus 37.
I don't think the Chiefs are, even though they're undefeated. They had a lot of close wins.
No. The Chiefs are not in it. The Chiefs are plus
Baltimore
33. Baltimore? It's not Baltimore either because
Detroit because they just romped Dallas.
Oh yeah, Detroit is number 2. They are at plus 60.
Minnesota,
so 3 points behind Minnesota. How about the Packers? The Packers are number 4 at plus 41. Took an L.
Don't tell me it's the Bears. Is that why you're doing
Bears? This? All 4 teams in the NFC North are the top 4 teams. The Bears are a plus 47.
Is there a world where they get everyone into the playoffs?
It's possible, right? Like if you think about it, what do you get? 7 teams make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
You get the 4 division winners, and then you would have 3 wild cards from that division, so no other teams would have to make it, right? It's tough, but it's possible.
Their problem is they still got to beat up on each other.
Right, and I mean, there's a world where nobody else in the NFC West makes it. Seattle, Arizona, and the Rams. Tampa's looking good, and then the Eagles and Dallas are the other 2 threats. So it'll be interesting. Like you said, they have to beat up on each other, and they're still quarterbacked by Sam Darnold and Caleb Williams, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Threats to do what? To make the playoffs. After what I saw this weekend, I don't know if either one of those teams are threats to make the playoffs. I'm just saying they're in the same realm as the Bears. That's all I'm trying to say at this point.
The Caleb Williams led Bears, who there were some people in this conversation who weren't high on Caleb Williams coming out.
Not us. We all were.
Yeah.
We were all high on Caleb Williams.
That may be your other podcast.
Yeah, come on, Greg, keep it together. It was your assistant coach with the mixtape.
The Support Black Quarterbacks podcast on Friday nights.
Yeah, we all said he was going to be a stud.
Yeah.
I feel like one of you said that you were a little bit uncertain still because of his competition or something in college or some crap.
That's definitely a wrong podcast.
If anything, I might have said that just like him going to the Bears worries me, but I never.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
I never said anything bad about him as a quarterback. I thought he.
No, you're right. Yeah, it was you were worried about his production based on being on the Bears and their history of quarterbacks and their lack thereof.
I was going to say what a storied history that is.
Yeah.
He still may end up being I don't want to say a miss as the number one pick, but the incorrect number one pick as the way the quarterback in Washington has played so far.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll see.
He's playing good himself, though.
No doubt.
Yeah.
All right, listen, let's get into it. So again, the way we set this up is each of us were to come up with some of our own questions as to, the Philadelphia sports now versus the Philadelphia sports in the future. So I figure I'll open it up, gents, and I'll throw it to you guys. 5 years from now, so we're looking at the year 2029, who is the face of Philadelphia sports in that moment? Chris, let's start with you.
Somebody that we don't know yet.
As in a free agent or
not going out on a limb with that answer, guys.
No, I mean seriously, I because the guys who will be right now, like you got Harper, you got Joel, you got Hurts. I'll be honest, Hurts ain't going to be here in 2029, and then Joel, the condition he'll be in by that point, who knows? And Harper is going to be what by that point, 37, mid 30s. So 36. I mean, he'll still be good, but I don't think he'll be a face of a team anymore. I think he'll be a leadership piece. But I think that the guy, maybe Maxey, but I mean, my opinion would say I think it's going to be somebody that's not yet in this town.
Yeah, Maxey will only be 28, but we'll find a way to screw it up. Like he won't be here for his prime. We know that.
Setting the tone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and still Ricky Council still trying to get into the rotation probably by that point.
Yeah. So, guys, you kind of set me up for my answer because you said you don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be here anymore. According to our text, though, guys, you think Lonzo Ball is going to be the face of Philadelphia?
Yeah, he could be. First of all, I didn't say that. I said I wouldn't be opposed to maybe looking at him at the deadline if he's healthy for a point guard. So I think
I got the receipt. I put my phone down for a half an hour and I had 40 some odd texts about Lonzo Ball.
Yeah, all that hype. The Twitter up was like Lonzo Ball returns to the court and he didn't even play.
Yeah.
Well, no, they said tomorrow he's going to come back.
I thought it was
Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh yeah, tomorrow's Wednesday. Yeah.
Well, also according to my receipt, Seltzer hopes that it's not going to be Drew Aller of the Penn State Nittany Lions. However, I have the answer. So after this season, going 9-8, barely squeaking out an NFC East division title, the Eagles are going to follow it up next season with an abysmal 4-13 record. Nick Sirianni's finally going to get fired. One season too late, in my opinion. But they're going to earn the number one pick in the draft, where they're going to take young Arch Manning out of the University of Texas, who they will pair with new head coach Ben Johnson, the current offensive coordinator up in Detroit. And they will be the new faces of Philadelphia sports in 2029.
They'll have their hands held high. Wait a minute. You said this year or next year?
I don't know what I said, guest. Run the tape back.
I don't know if I don't think
next year. I said that we win this year. We'd finish in last next year, and then he'll come out as a redshirt junior.
So you think that the more of the big story of action news for that is you think Sirianni will be here next season?
It has to go. The narrative has to play in this way.
Well, Ben Johnson could come next year and then Arch the year after.
Then do it. Sign me up.
Nobody wanted to go Mitchkoff, huh?
Not the face of Philadelphia sports.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the way we're trending, we may need a little new juice, a little new life.
Does this mean the guy that we're going to see in the Cure auto insurance commercials is that considered the face of Philadelphia sports?
Listen, we've been lacking a good Russian in this town for a long time.
Might
be the guy.
I don't know what kind of comment that was. I don't even know what that meant.
I don't think we've ever had a Russian, have we?
Were we looking for Russians in Philadelphia?
Was Nidimaki Russian? Antero Nidimaki?
I don't know. Maybe Fedotenko.
Oh, there you go.
Ruslan. See, that's the biggest lie in this whole pod is that we're not hockey guys. The truth is we're all hockey guys. We just don't show it.
Yeah.
Born and bred. Al was up till Friday night. I know, Chris, you're a big Flyers guy, but Al was up Friday night watching.
I watched
I watched. Yeah, I watched it. Al used to have a Yanni Nienema jersey.
Dude, I was just about to say Yanni Nienema.
Yanni Nienema.
Yeah, dude, I watched the shootout and everything. Who won it first? Was that Farabee?
Frost.
Morgan Frost?
Yeah, that was Robert's grandson.
I actually wasn't. I actually wasn't big on Farabee at all so far. I think he's been kind of blah, but I mean, what do I know? I'm a black dude watching hockey. I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like I wanted to critique them, and I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm watching. I don't know what's going on.
You should make a show called Flyers Lane.
Flyers Lane.
Yeah, Flyers Alley's taken, isn't it?
Yeah. What are you guys doing on Thursdays?
Yeah. Well, I got the black quarterback pod on Fridays, so I can squeeze it in there on Thursdays.
Listen, my answer would be I still think it's if I had to pick somebody in the city right now, it's still probably Bryce. Just because of how much of an icon he is. Again, he'll be 36, so he'll have fallen off a little bit. But I don't really see anybody else ready to take the throne. Chris, you mentioned Maxey. He was another guy I thought of, but as good as I think Maxey is, I don't think he's ready to be I don't think he'll ever be the face of a city. I don't think he has that level to get to. Frank, I've been in the chat.
Give us a second while we read Frankie's story here.
It's a great show tonight, boys. Yeah, I think Maxey, Mike Mikoff, Luchenko is at the Jet.
Jet Luchenko.
Unknown player for the Birds, and either Crawford or the Phillies third base project, Mitch Johnson. I think
that's not the right guy, but thanks for the time.
Mitch Johnson is that a cross between Mick Abel and Aiden Miller? I don't know what he's going with there.
Mitch Johnson.
Yo, Glenn,
hold up. Maybe he got his scout reports out there from some Mitch Johnson.
Vin the Insider.
Vin D is Frankie I.
What was it? Mitch? What was his name? Mitch what?
Mitch Johnson.
I'm glad Seltzer read it because I would have been like, yeah, that Mitch Johnson kid looked pretty good last season in AAA.
Hold on, there is a Mitch Johnson in the minor leagues.
Well, listen, he might be on this. I don't know. Maybe it's maybe it's Jizzle James.
He pitches for the Red Sox, though.
Frank, wrong organization, pal.
Great moment there. All right, Al, hit us with one of your questions.
All right, we just looked forward 5 years. I want to take you guys in the way back machine. I want to look back at the past 5 years. We've had a very frustrating run of Philadelphia sports ever since the Eagles won their last Super Bowl. So my question to you fellas is, which team for you has been the most frustrating over the last 5 years to be a fan of? Adam, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I think Chris and I are going to be on the same page with this one. And it's got to be the Sixers when you think about it. Because, okay, you have the Eagles, and they've had their struggles, but they got to a Super Bowl, right? And they were on the brink of winning it. And while that's not the be-all, end-all goal, it's still an accomplishment. The Philadelphia Phillies, we went through, again, you're putting us in a 5-year window, Al. We went through a dozen years before that where we couldn't even watch the team because of how bad they were. So these last 3 years have been a revelation, and they've gotten to a World Series. The Philadelphia 76ers put us through the ringer in regards to the process. And Chris had season tickets. I watched every game of that, thinking at the end of the day we were going to have a dynasty. And the goal of the process throughout was to not be one of these middling teams who continually loses in the second round of the playoffs. And through all of that, and the terrible decisions this organization has made, that's where we are. We are a team that loses in the second round every year. And I don't see how the frustration cannot be the most with that team, having gone through the Ben Simmons situation in the offseason, having gone through a James Harden situation in an offseason. It's just like everything that's going to go wrong for this team goes wrong. You had again, we're in a 5-year window here, but you had a GM who was on a different Twitter account tweeting stuff about his players. Like this organization has been a joke for the last 10, 15 years, and they can't seem to get out of their own way. And it almost happened again last night with Paul George getting hurt in the preseason. Luckily, they dodged the bullet there, but it has to be the Sixers.
I would say I went back and forth with this, believe it or not, and the Sixers are close, but I actually went with the Phillies. And the reason why is simple. baseball's harder to watch than basketball. And when you're struggling in baseball, it's hard. It's a hard watch. It's like basically sitting there handcuffed and someone just walks along across every like 10 minutes and just open fist slaps you in the face every few minutes. And it's just like you watch not only the playoffs, but the second half of this season of just failure to hit. Like pitching's great, whatever. But when you can't hit, and you have guys in this lineup, like the Sixers have, let's be honest, we got 3 dudes. The Phillies got at least 5, 6, 7 guys where we've depended on or thought that they could be guys to lead us and get hot and lead us further. And none of them have done that. In fact, they've all taken, in my opinion, a step back because he went to the World Series in 22, the championship series last year, and then this year the division series. So they've lost around every time. And when you can't hit in baseball, it's hard to look at that. So for me, the most frustrating has been the Phillies.
I think at some point over the last 24 hours when I thought about this question, I had each team picked. I had to look up the definition of the word. Frustration is defined as the feeling of being upset or annoyed, especially because of inability to change or achieve something. So I thought about that, right? The Eagles, to me, it's not so much of a frustration of where we're at or what's happened. It's that the QB and the coach just aren't what we thought they were. And that's just the reality of it. The Phillies got so close. They were closer, I think, than any other team. They were 2 games away. And then the last 2 seasons, we truly believed that they were going to take that next step and win the World Series. We're upset that they haven't changed their approach at the plate. We're upset that Topper hasn't been able to show that he can manage a team beyond just letting the guys do what they want. But Adam, I'm with you. The Sixers, at the end of the day, they have tried year after year to change the combination of players around Joel Embiid, to change the coaches around Joel Embiid, to be able just to keep them on the friggin' court come playoff time. They haven't found the key for what it takes to win in the postseason. And after tanking for 2-3 seasons, purposely losing games, there's no other end result that makes that okay than winning a title. And so for me, it's even though I think that the Sixers are the farthest away from winning that title in that 5-year stretch, they're the most frustrating watch for me. They're the most frustrating team to be a fan of for me.
You think they're the furthest away than the Eagles?
Yeah, I don't think the Sixers are close. And I think it also has to do with the competition. But I think that the Eagles are stuck with the Chiefs. I mean, we're going to get to another question later about a championship, which I might have already kind of alluded to my answer. But the Sixers are dealing with the Celtics. They're dealing with the Nuggets. Like, I don't think the Phillies have that in baseball. And the Eagles only have the Chiefs.
Okay.
Good question. All right, Chris, here's one of yours.
All right. So I guess the first one I'll start off with is when we talk about some of these stars that we have in this town right now, would you rather your team leader be the personality of Jalen Hurts, dry with all the metaphors when it's up to the press conferences and that kind of stuff, or Bryce Harper, who does lead by example, but sometimes you wish he was more vocal with other players or to the media?
Harper 100%. Because he's also leading by example on the field. I think you just said that. Like I don't know. He's one of those, like, what's the saying? Walk tall and carry a big stick, or whatever that saying is.
Yeah,
like
literally.
Yeah, that's him to me. I mean, he's shown that he's been worth the contract so far, in my opinion. Jalen Hurts has shown the exact opposite.
I would agree.
Before you start, let me ask Al a question. If I told you in 2019 that we'd be in 2024 now, what is this now? That was his 19, 21, his 6th completed year in the Philadelphia Phillies uniform, and we sold out won a World Series. Are you disappointed in that?
Yes and no, only because my expectations 6 years ago were so low already to begin with. And baseball is like, it's not a one-man game. Bryce Harper can't win a game on his own. Jalen Hurts, as the quarterback of the Eagles, potentially can.
Because I would say we're halfway through that 13 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Chris. I think the answer to your question is pretty easy. It's Bryce, and I think it would be a more difficult question if this was 2 years ago when we had the Jalen Hurts MVP Super Bowl type season where his leadership really shone through. But I think he's come across as I don't want to say incompetent leader, but that might be the right word the last 2 years in what's happened to this team and how dysfunctional they've become from the inside out, and that includes the coaches as well at this point. The one thing that you have to give Bryce credit for is of all the superstars in this town, when it matters the most, he shows up. Outside of Zach Wheeler, I think he's probably the biggest guy who does that. We don't see it with our basketball superstar. Jalen obviously played really well in the Super Bowl, so you can't take that away from him. But he's underachieved in some other playoff games that have come along. Tyrese Maxey, last year we saw him take a step forward, but he still has to do more of it on that side. So to me, it's Bryce's leadership because not only does he step up on the field, but I do think he's the pulse of that clubhouse. And that team,
is it good enough?
Listen, I know that they fell off this year, but by all accounts, that clubhouse is extremely close knit, and that has to do with the player's personality and leadership. Whether you perform on the field all the time is not necessarily a leadership thing, in my opinion. It's a matter of sometimes it's just performance. And baseball is one of those sports where if you're in a mechanical funk, a good leader can't get you out of that.
Well, and I also think, and we might talk about this in a little bit, but one of the inherent problems I think with the way the Phillies are made up is they are all buddies. They are all friends. And if you think about it, like if we worked together with just a group of our friends and a couple of guys were having bad days at work, you probably wouldn't get in their ass too much. You just let them go about their business. And I think that that's one of the things that I would like to see Bryce do a little bit more. Especially,
yeah, like I do wonder, and I mentioned this to you guys in the chat. I didn't do it last week. So the Wednesday or Thursday before the playoff series, I was out at a golf course, and 4 holes in front of me was JT Realmuto, Bryson Stott, and Kyle Schwarber. And I do wonder if those guys are like, "Yo, JT, you going to get a fucking hit in the next couple of days or what?" Do they bust balls like that?
I doubt it, man.
That's their job, but they're professionals.
Yeah.
We're not professionals in that regard. So it's easy for us to say that kind of stuff when it's their money and their jobs and their families' support on the line and stuff. I don't know if they do that.
But when you're close enough to somebody, I feel like you can.
There's no way. So I have a co-teacher that I'm friends with. There's no way we'd ever be out and either one of us would ever say to the other one, like, "Yo, you really screwed it up with that kid the other day."
Yeah, good lesson, bro. They really learned a lot yesterday when you did that.
Yeah.
But your job is not as public as some of the other jobs.
No, but it's still at the core the same thing in terms of the jocularity of the people involved.
I tend to agree with you guys. I'm just curious what that conversation is like during that course of those 18 holes.
I'll be honest, man. It's damn if you do, damn if you don't. Because I'd be pissed if they didn't talk about baseball in that whole thing. That would piss me off as a fan too, because it's like you guys are in a championship caliber team, and even though you're on your day off or whatever, your season's over, to not even say anything about it, that would probably rub me the wrong way too. I think if I saw them and I overheard that.
Interesting. All right, let me hit you with my next one. Which team is best?
You got a bingo board in there or something?
I got my notes, man. Take it easy. Which team is best suited to win a championship to win the next championship, whatever time frame that is?
Guess he jots those notes down on that TV guide that he still subscribes to.
Yeah. Reference there.
This is a really strange answer, but honestly, they're the only team with a mission and not a mission, but a plan, and that's the Flyers.
Whoa,
that's the Flyers. Honestly, I feel like hockey is very much like the NFL, where year to year crazy things happen. And we just talked about how far away we think that the Sixers, or I don't think Sixers are. I think the Eagles are. And we don't know what the Phillies are going to bring to us year to year at this point. The Flyers, even if it's 5 years from now, that might be the next opportunity for us to have a legitimate chance for any of these teams to be in a championship round. They have a budding superstar. They have, like I said, a general manager and a president with an actual plan that they're not even trying to hide, which is good. They're being transparent. They've got some good prospects coming up and that are coming up now and that will be in the future. And I feel like, honestly, man, I got a feeling about that organization that they're gonna be there, and they're gonna be a team that, I joked with you guys a few weeks ago, and I said this is gonna be a Flyers town soon. I really wouldn't be surprised by that. All jokes aside, and I'll be up tonight watching them take on Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. Eh?
Listen, the answer here is the Phillies. As down as we want to be on the Phillies because of what just happened this season, there's still top end talent on that team. There's still a top 6 team in the NL, maybe top 8 at worst. If there's no injuries or anything like that. Baseball is just simply, we've said it now, it's the hardest to win the title as a favorite. And there's really no real clear favorites, I don't think, right now in the sport of baseball. So all they have to do, they know what they have to do. They just have to get into the dance. And guess you talked about like a clear mission. I think this team does still have a clear mission because they have all these guys who are aging rapidly, and we have all this money tied up into them. And there's no signs of slowing down as far as the spending goes. We also have a crop of younger players who we don't have to pay anytime soon. The Bryson Stotts and the Alec Boehms, et cetera, et cetera. So I think maybe we make a couple moves this offseason. I know that Middleton said, or something or Dombrowski, one of the two, said something to the effect of like, we're not going to be spending any more money on the big stars. But we do need to make some changes. So I think they recognize that they've spent enough money, and now it's time to bring in some guys who are willing to do the dirty work. They're willing to play that scrappy brand of baseball. I'm hoping that this is what they're going to do. And if they can do that, I think that's close enough. If you add that on to what we already have, like these guys aren't just going to forget how to play baseball.
Well, one thing I'll say real quick before Seltzer goes. So Dombrowski said, I think it was last year, very similarly, where they wouldn't be interested in going after, a high price guy because they have enough high price guys already on their payroll and this and that, which they do. And then they went out and offered Yamamoto $330 million, which he ended up declining because he wanted to play in LA with Shohei and all, which so do I. So do we all. Okay. So I don't blame him for that. The second thing is when it comes to, having this goal or this mission, this isn't the first year they've had that. This is now the third year where they've had, or coming off their second year now, going into their third, where we've all been saying they're not going to let that happen again. They're on a mission. They've lost tough last year, and they're going to come back this year, and they're going to pull it out. I mean, at the core, for me, the Phillies are a team I worry about their dog instinct in the playoff moment, not the season. I'm not worried about the season. They'll do what they're going to do in the season. But when the rubber meets the road in the postseason, they've shown they get to a point, and then they lay eggs. And when they lay eggs, it's plural. It's all of them. We saw it when they got no hit in the World Series. We saw it last year when they had a 3-2 lead against Arizona at home and couldn't close the deal. And we saw it again this year when they had us all hyped up, tying up the game or the series with the Mets, and then going to New York and laying 2 eggs. So it worries me.
They're the Sixers to you. But I will combat you one thing. I will say, I don't think at the beginning of last season it was a World Series or bust thing yet. They were still clearly the second fiddle to the Braves in the NL East at the beginning of last season. And even at the beginning of this season, to a point, depending on which national pundits you wanted to listen to.
I don't know how you could say that, though, when they were just coming off a World Series appearance. Like, how would you anything less than going back to where you just came from not be a failure?
Last year didn't feel like 2023 didn't feel like World Series or bust just yet. This year did. I don't think last year did.
Well, you just talk about their aging, too. I mean, Realmuto's a year older, Schwarber's a year older, Bryce even is a year older, Turner's a year older. How much can we expect these guys to perform at high levels when Father Time is right around that corner?
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you, Al. I think it's the Phillies. And the one point, you made a lot of the points that I would have made. The other one is just no salary cap. And what that does is, with all due respect, it takes out 10 to 12 teams every year, right? There's 10 to 12 teams that just don't have the money to compete. What'd you say?
You would think. But this year, we saw the Guardians, the Royals.
You get a fluky one. But for the most part, the World Series teams, again, you got the Yankees, the Mets, and the Dodgers this year, right? They're 3 of the higher payroll teams. And the Phillies, by all means, plan to play in that. And I don't buy anything Dombrowski said, Chris, to your point, in his press conference today. They could very well be a player for a Juan Soto or a big-name free agent. And I think he's holding his cards close. He's not going to say, like, hey, we need 3 new outfielders just in case Brandon Marsh ends up coming back. You don't want to ostracize your players this early in the offseason.
And I think, too, like, there's when there's smoke, there's fire. There's a reason why they had Soto on their plane for the All-Star game. there's a reason why they've got all these former nationals in their clubhouse now. And I think it's a big plan that maybe for years has been going. I remember years ago, Howie Roseman said that they map out NFL drafts 5 years in advance. And I think that's a smart way to look at it. Now, unfortunately, you could argue, well, what have they been doing? Because some of their drafts have been dick. But I think that the Phillies might be doing something similar with their free agency. You said, of course, that there is no cap. So they might be kind of mapping out the future in terms of, all right, who's going to be available this year? Who's available next year? Who's available the year after that? And then what do we have on our cabinet that we can use or ship out to make room there? So,
and don't forget, if there was one coach, all the coaches coming back, if there was one coach that deserved the axe, it's probably Kevin Long, the hitting coach.
Yeah.
And if you know, he is very, very tight with Juan Soto from their days in Washington.
So that could also, all those guys.
When there's smoke, there's fire. So I'm with you. I got the Phillies as the closest. Again, they had 95 wins this year. They could very well. They'll be in the mix next year again as well. So we'll just see how they have to perform better when it comes out of crunch time.
Yep. All right. Well, coming off the heels of that question, I want to know which coach/manager do you think is the one that is holding his team back from reaching that pinnacle more? Is it Rob Thompson or is it Nicholas Sirianni?
So we talked about this before we get into this. I had a similar question for my last one, so let's mold them together. So yours is who's holding them back the furthest. Mine is, would you rather, and this is similar to Chris's question, someone coach your team with the personality of a Sirianni or with the personality of a Thompson? So let's try and like mold those two together when we're doing, a little yin and a little yang here. And if you don't mind, I'll start. I think Sirianni is holding his team back more than it is a Rob Thompson, because Sirianni's personality, you can tell, is rubbing his players the wrong way. And I know there was the talk this week that they wanted the Sirianni of 2 years ago to come out with his personality. But my biggest issue with what happened at the end of the game this week is if you go back to the New Orleans game, when Jalen Carter is yelling and screaming at the New Orleans fans at the end of the game, who's the guy who's holding him back in that situation? It's Nick Sirianni. If you want to, we talked about being a leader. How does it show off as a leader if you're telling your player not to go and yell at the fans or whatever in the crowd, and then 2 weeks later you're yelling at your home fans? What type of message is that sending to your players as far as, how they should behave or how they should act? I just don't see the leadership from Nick Sirianni. I think he second guesses himself a ton. And I think you see that, and I think the players see that. For Rob Thompson, listen, you could say what you want about his managerial decisions. You could say what you want about his personality. From everything we heard, all of those players would go to bat for that dude. And that's why he's still here. So that's why I think, he is a better – what was the exact wording of your question?
Mine was who is holding their team back more.
I think that's what. So I think Sirianni is a bigger hindrance for those reasons. As far as a personality for who I would want coaching my team, I like my coach to have a little fire. I think Sirianni's over the top in that regard, but I do think there needs to be a little bit of a happy medium between these two guys, because to me, Rob Thompson doesn't really light a fire under his guys. He's been very laid back, and I don't think that's always the most effective style of leadership. So I would like something a little bit in between, personally, if I'm picking my exact leadership style.
Yeah, and by the way, I wish those guys would go to bat for Rob Thompson. If they did, maybe we'd still be playing. I agree with you, though. I think Sirianni is, all jokes aside, what I saw Sunday on that press conference was an utter embarrassment. It looked, you got a Halloween thing going on there over there?
What be a strobe light?
I got a flickering light above my head. That's all.
Check those closets to make sure the boogeymans are coming out.
I don't have it. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. It was an embarrassment, and it honestly, there were some people who thought it actually was even a cry for help, and I don't know if I'd go that far, but the whole shaving the head thing, and then all of a sudden coming unhinged in the press conference, maybe it was. But when it comes to these guys, so to speak, going to bat for their coach, and you said about how some of those players had said to him allegedly that they want him to be himself and all that stuff. Of course they do, because it takes a pressure and it takes attention off of them. All we're talking about is Nick Sirianni. We're not talking about how they barely squeaked by a 1-4, now 1-5 Cleveland Browns team. We're not talking about the fact that the Commanders beat up that team, and the Cowboys, who we just saw got beat up, went boots to ass to them in Cleveland week 1. And off of a bye, we could only beat them by 4. Okay? So to me, it's a clear-cut winner here that Sirianni's holding this team back. I think that he is trying to be a friend and a peer with these guys instead of a coach. I think that he has already told us the debate's over. He's told us, yeah, I call plays on offense still. Yeah, I give Vic some ideas for defense and what I want to run. And he's even said there's times when they don't work. And he also said there's times when he can't watch the play because he's too, like, just like a fan, he's too nervous to see what happens. What NFL coach says something like that? You might think it, and you might even do it on your own. But there's not one of them that would actually say that. And to me, as a fan of this team and as someone that has bled green for 39 years, that was ridiculous. And it's an embarrassment. And to have your kids up there cursing while they're up there, and then to have the whole freaking family reunion like you won the Super Bowl when you won your 3rd game of the season is a joke. And all that stuff being said, it's holding that team back. X's and O's wise, off the field wise. And if Lurie and Howie don't see that sooner than later, I'm going to start officially questioning them.
I'd be very surprised if they don't see it. Very surprised.
I mean, there was a report that came out today that people in the upper management of the organization were also embarrassed by what they saw on Sunday. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the report that came out. So hopefully they were, and maybe they do something about it.
Good. I'm going to use a little analogy from our profession here, Chris. And the way I see it is, Rob Thompson is your teacher who wants to teach. He wants his students to do well, but he has no classroom management skills. Classroom management, for those of you who are not teachers, is the ability just to manage the behaviors in your classroom, right? So you keep your students focused. He lets his students make the rules. Bryce Harper doesn't want to do his homework. No big deal. Alec Boehm wants to stand up and say he hates this effing class. That's cool with me. Trey Turner, you want to take a hot, creamy shit in the middle of the classroom? We're going to give you a standing ovation.
Not do your group assignment.
We're gonna cheer you on while you do it. But the thing with a teacher that lacks classroom management skills is you can help that teacher. You can help them obtain those skills, because at the end of the day, that person wants to teach. They want to do their job well. They just lack some of the tools necessary. Nick Sirianni, and Chris, you mentioned it, he's the teacher that just wants to be cool. He wants his students to like him, and he wants them to make him feel cool to make up for something that he is lacking internally. He's the guy that has all the football players and the cheerleaders in his class, and he just wants to string them along and get invited to the games and the after parties. So he's doing things like buzzing his head, and he's wearing Hawaiian shirts, and he's riding a motorcycle to school now come May because he wants to win everyone over. Well, guess what? I can't help a teacher that wants to be cool because they don't want to teach. They just want to be accepted, and that's Nick Sirianni. He just wants to be accepted into this football fraternity, and so he'll do whatever it takes to get that acceptance. I'm out, and I will be completely out if the Eagles bring him back next year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It feels like a guy who literally is trying to live vicariously through these guys. And he's even said himself, he's a high school coach at heart. Well, bro, you sound like one.
Yep.
Forget the heart. You sound like it and you act like it. And I mean, even the coach of our high school, where I coached for middle school, he wouldn't have even done that kind of stuff. Like, it's not even about an NFL thing. It's about what's professional and what's not. And what we saw looked more like a dad whose kid was on a team and getting in front of a microphone than it did a head coach.
And it's crazy because they won, and you would think he would want all the attention to be on the win. Like, I actually thought Jalen Hurts had some very nice plays. They ran the first successful option to a running back in NFL history, and I thought he took a great angle on that option when he faked the pitch. But instead of letting the reporters and everybody all week talk about the win, he takes all the attention away from the win and puts it on himself when he's screaming at the fans. And then, dude, it's like he has no awareness. He lacks awareness. He has to go.
And this is coming from an organization where the management and the owner talked about emotional intelligence. And I think that he may have it with his players for the reasons you just said, but he doesn't have it with everything else. He can't read the room. Like, one of the reporters even asked him, why are your kids here? And instead of using that as a hint to be like, bro, this is kind of like cringe. What are they doing? He took it as, oh man, it's family, football's family, and like all the moments we're gonna have, and our kids are gonna go out with me, and we're gonna have a catch on the field. I'm like, dude, we're not playing in Delco somewhere at Episcopal High. Like, this is the NFL. What are you talking about? With all due respect to your family, and I'm sure they're all good, beautiful kids, and he's got a great family, but we're not invested in that. That's not what we're here for. We're here for the betterment of this Philadelphia Eagles football team. We're here to watch this quarterback take strides forward instead of taking another 2 steps back. We're here to be able to see this O-line be able to keep him up and keep that multi-million-dollar free agent toy that we just got in Saquon Barkley successful. That's what and this defense to come back in one piece. That's what we're here to see and hear about. And he just doesn't get it. And 100% to your point, I'm also 1,000% out. I mean, short of a Super Bowl, I don't care if they go a point short of making it.
Yeah,
He's got to go for me. I don't want that kind of guy representing my NFL football team.
Well said, guys. Well said. All right, let's go to the next one. Chris, what do you got for your second question?
So I'll give you this one because the other one I had was kind of based on it's kind of similar to what we were already talking about. So in terms of management, upper management, what do you think is the worst strategy? And I think we're coming off a little negative tonight, but you know what? That's the box we've been put in by these guys.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
So it is what it is. We are what we are, and it is what it is. Quoted a great.
What it is what it is. The way Charlie used to say it.
Exactly. Worst strategy: Dombrowski seemingly being okay with standing pat this offseason, or Daryl Morey admittedly going high risk, high reward for veteran free agents every year.
Al, you want to start? I need to put some thought into this one.
Yeah, me too. Probably my gut right away said Morey because I think, again, just because of the
You like Morey. You like Morey's strategy better?
No.
No, the question is the worst strategy.
Okay. I think his is worse because I think Dombrowski can see the names on the paper. He can see that the talent is there. We've been talking about it all night at this point. And with the parity and the turnover in baseball, it only takes that one hot fall with the guys we have. You know, as much as we're down on them right now, and we should be. They've turned into the Sixers. Morey is just like, and we saw it coming. Like we all season long, we knew what was going to happen. We knew Paul George was going to be a Sixer at the beginning before last season even started, and nobody wanted that. And now here it is in our laps, and we signed him to a max deal, and we're stuck with this team now, this core, you know, for the next however many years. I think that his strategy is worse. I'm out on Morey's strategy.
He's such a cringe dude too. Like you just imagine him just going up to these guys like, "Hey, you still want to play with us? Are you still in?" They're like, "Yeah, I'll be there."
So I agree with you, Al, but I want to throw this counterpoint at you. Daryl Morey's job is significantly harder than Dombrowski's job because of the salary cap situation. You have to respect the fact that Daryl Morey took over a team paying Tobias Harris, depending on what year you're using the cap, 25 to 30% of his cap was tied up in Tobias Harris. Your hands are tied at that point. And then, you know, he obviously makes the mistake with Harden, but that was his guy. And then he's kind of forced to rebuild on the fly every single year. And I agree with you. That's not the better overall strategy because, again, you want some stability, especially when it comes to a basketball team. If you're restarting every year, you're not going to get the best product. But I think you have to factor in that he wasn't dealt the greatest hand to start with when he was brought on board. When it comes to Dombrowski, when you look at, you know, the idea of standing pat this year, you know, you think about it, like, do you guys still like believe in Kyle Schwarber? He is what he is, right? We know what we're getting from Kyle Schwarber. We know what we're getting from Bryce Harper. Alec Boehm, like, you know, the maturity issues are there, but be honest with you, he was really good for 75% of the season this year before he got hurt. We still, I think all three of us, we were bullish on Bryson Stott. I don't think we're ready to give up on Bryson Stott at this point. So you're churning out, and you have Trey Turner, who we all can kind of look at as a mistake, but Dombrowski cannot admit that was a mistake because that's a guy he brought in. So he has to stand by that move or else he looks bad in that situation. So I think it's a lot easier for Dombrowski to to stay with his guys than it is for Daryl Morey, even if I think that the Dombrowski strategy is a better strategy.
I want to just real quick add too. So the official quote that Morey said the other day about when asked about the Paul George contract. Do you guys see this by any chance?
Was it the thing where he said we knew it was a big risk, but we were willing
Yeah.
to
So he said, "quote It was definitely risky, yeah, but it was also the best plan. A risky plan doesn't mean it's a bad plan. It just could be the best plan." And I'm thinking, like, what kind of comment is that? So what does that even like? What does that really mean? Al, imagine if Sarah and I hired Jackson to babysit our girls one night, right? And you come over, you bring them, and someone's over, we're talking about things, and all of a sudden one of us say, yeah, you know what? It was kind of risky to have them over, but it worked out. How would you feel about us talking about your son like that? He was a risk. I mean, but it worked. It might be the best option we had.
But right. I think Chris, to his point, I think what he's trying to say is this. It's like when the James Harden situation came to a head last year, you knew you weren't going to get a ton of value for James Harden straight up. So they took the road of we're going to free up cap space for this year.
Right.
And then what happened was some of these guys that they thought were going to be available at the end of the year, whether it was the Pascal Siakam,
they flaked out. They
went to Gianninobi's, they weren't there. So it just became, hey, we had 5 options, 4 of them are off the table. This is the only one that's left. We got to get this guy.
But now, I don't think you say that. That's my point. The logic I agree with, and what he's saying I agree with. I just think from a perspective of a president of a team, and you just got a $200 and something million guy, I'm not saying that. I'm just going to say, in our eyes, Paul George was always the best option, and he was always someone that we targeted during this period, and we got the guy that we wanted to get to go forward our organization. I think that comment that he made, if I'm Paul George, I'm kind of looking at him sideways, like, well, did you really want me here, or was it just because, like you just said, Seltzer, all your other plans flaked out?
So I had to reread the quote, but the way I took it the first time I read it was more of, well, it came down to 4 of the 5 guys that we were interested in were gone, and it was Paul George. And if he didn't come here, we were kind of screwed because we didn't have any.
That's my point. That's not a ringing endorsement for your decision.
But I still think they wanted Paul George from the get-go. I still think he was their guy. I think it just became there was no backup plan left at that point, and they were going to be left with their dick in their hands.
And I agree.
If he didn't want to come here. So I read it more as that than it was like, well, I guess we have to get Paul George.
It's like, remember when Vlade Divac made that trade and he told the media, he's like, we had better options, but that's the one that our management wanted us to take. And everybody was like, bro, what? Like, it's those kind of things where, like, these guys in these roles, again, emotionally intelligent, some of them lack it. And it's like, I don't understand. Again, the logic's there, but I just feel like that's just the way he said it. It could be up for misinterpretation. It could be from the way I took it. Could be the way that you took it. We don't know how Paul feels about it.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes they're just too honest. They say things they shouldn't say, I feel like.
Right. And Daryl Morey is, if you heard him on some podcasts, he's a strange guy. Like somebody said emotional intelligence. He doesn't have a ton of it.
He's a weirdo.
Yeah. All right, Al, hit us with. I already did my third one with the Sirianni thing.
All right, so, I'm gonna switch it up real quick because I got one. You guys aren't gonna have to have any notes on whatever. It's just right off the cuff here. I got 3 doors in front of you. You're in the multiverse. You can choose a door. Whatever door you go in, this is what's gonna happen. Okay, for this upcoming season. Door number 1 is for the remainder of this season going forward. You get MVP season Hurts. Door number 2 for next season with the Phillies, you get patience at the plate Phillies. Door number 3 for this season is you get completely healthy Joel Embiid. Which door are you walking through?
That's the easiest question you could have ever asked us, dude.
I don't know.
It's number 3 because we haven't seen it.
That's the only one that's in the great. We haven't seen number 2.
No, listen, we haven't seen number 2, but I don't know if
we haven't seen any of these. We haven't seen any of these.
He said MVP season Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. We haven't seen it since.
We saw it.
And that's the best he's got, which was really good, but we still didn't win any titles from it.
Okay, but you're not guaranteed a title if you see it
And
again.
you could argue.
Clarify, are you saying that the door leads to a title, or are you just saying in general, like it's just a better watch or a better team?
It enhances your team. It's not a
Okay,
it's not
so
a
just an
guaranteed
enhancement.
title.
Okay.
And you could argue that we got to see MVP season Hurts until he got hurt. I mean, he picked it up in the Super Bowl, but like it took a little bit out of him that injury.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it has to be Embiid, guys, because we at the end of the day now. I mean, he signed the extension, but we need to know if healthy Joel Embiid can do it in the playoffs. We can't have the excuses anymore, and we need to see him fully healthy in a playoff run to just know deep in our souls what we have.
I told you guys at the end of last year that question is over. He's never gonna. You could have him play 12 games in the season. He'll find a way to not be healthy in the postseason.
Agree,
That's just how he is.
Al has the magic elixir behind the door. Al, Al, show him the door. Al, show him the door.
Behind that door is a healthy Joel Embiid.
Door number 4, we dropped that beat.
Now look, when Joel can fit through that door, maybe we will get a healthy Joel.
You guys just got done telling me how you think the Phillies are closest to a championship. So it's got to be the door where the Phillies have patience at the plate. That's what's got them home, is lack of patience. So if they have patience, and not only have patience, but have the ability and the will to hit the ball opposite field, that also is part of it. And I think if they have that, they're in a way better and way closer position to a championship than either of those two still are. The Eagles still have a questionable defense and a questionable group of guys with their desire, their want to on that side of the ball. And the Sixers, you guys just said you don't think that they're close. So a healthy Embiid leads to what? A third, maybe a conference finals exit, maybe, or are you going to be overachieving and getting to that second round with the roster we have now? I think they're not. I don't think that roster is bad. I think that they're going to be a decent team, but the problem is that door is jammed, bro. It ain't opening. It's not going to open. You could pick it. It ain't going to open it.
It's not even a door. It's like in the cartoons when Bugs Bunny would just paint a door on like a brick wall. That's what it is.
I don't even need the entire Phillies team to change their approach. I need 2 or 3 guys to change their approach. I don't need Trey Turner.
Oh, see, I need all these guys.
But like, I don't know, Schwarber and Harper, them being aggressive hitters, it's kind of what makes them who they are. Trey Turner, when we got him, you guys can speak for yourself. I always saw Iglesias in that Mets series. I'm not saying he was the same hitter, but he was fouling off pitches with 2 strikes. And with 2 strikes, it was a 10-pitch at bat, and then he slapped a single to center field. I thought that was the kind of hitter that we were getting with Trey Turner. Yeah, I didn't see him swinging and missing as much as Trey Turner does. Bryson Stott's another one. Like, I need the Bryson Stott I had last year on my team as opposed to the Bryson Stott we had this year. If I can get those 2 guys to take a bunch of pitches, then I think this team will be a lot better if those guys can just kind of live up to their potential. I don't necessarily need all the other guys to change their approach. Maybe Brandon Marsh is the third one.
He's gone.
I've seen all I need to see of Brandon.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm saying if he comes back, if we're judging this Phillies team as it is.
Before I forget, I want to mention too that I'm calling for a citywide when we have opening day 2005. A standing boo the holy hell out of Trey Turner. I want like 1980s, 1990s vitriol aimed at Trey Turner for his first at bat, and I'm dead serious, dude.
Did the Netflix documentary come out yet or no?
No,
I don't know, but he deserves and has earned a standing boo, like batteries, the whole 9, man.
Dude, have Santa Claus throw the batteries.
Yeah.
If any Phillies fan watches that documentary, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Oh yeah, I have no interest. Just like I didn't watch the Amazon one with the Eagles with Wentz. I was like, I'm not interested.
No.
Have you guys watched? I sent you the text. Have you guys watched the Starting 5 one on Netflix with the basketball guys?
Not yet.
No.
It's disappointing to me how unlikable Anthony Edwards is coming off in that. I love Anthony Edwards.
He's got a swag that's gonna rub people the wrong way.
Yeah, he's got heel qualities, man.
Yeah, he comes off very like he is immature. We all know that, but he comes off.
I remember the other, was it last year? I think it was when I think it was Shaq or Chuck when he said to him in the post game about they ain't been to Minnesota in a while. You remember that? He was like, "Bring your ass."
There's a scene I don't want to spoil for, but like his girlfriend's having a baby, and he left the game at halftime, and he's complaining about like having to leave the game, and then like while he just like the baby was just born, and he's like watching the basketball game on his phone while that's going on. It's just like, it's a little cringe.
Yeah, but he's also a kid.
That's what I mean. He is 100%. Yeah,
that's another part of it too. I mean, maybe when he's 33, he realized like, yo, I look like a dope when I did that.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
You know,
but it's a good watch. All those shows are always good background television for.
I don't understand. I haven't seen it yet, but I never have understood. And Al, you're someone that's had this. I don't understand the hatred for LeBron. I just don't understand it.
Dude, he's such a tryhard, man.
I don't see that. I really don't.
Yes, yeah, come on, man. Like that, there's like so many like funny videos and memes of him. Like the one when he's like, he's on like Twitch or something, he's streaming. He's like, yeah, man, happy tight end day, man. Love to all my tight ends out there. And then he's obviously looking up tight end names on his computer. Yeah, my man, Travis Kelce, that's my man right there. Kyle Pitts, can't forget about him. And you can see the screen beaming in his face,
reflecting off his eyes.
You see it. I'll tell you this though, I love LeBron on the court, and I kind of felt the way you have over the past 2 years that he's gotten that way. He comes off extremely likable in the documentary.
I'll say the one thing I don't like is, and it's a shame because it's I get it, but a person of his stature with the situation, I don't like his role with Bronny and making him feel like he's got to be this like, going to his practices, going to the combine, putting pressure on these organizations when they see him sitting there. That I don't like. But at the same time, as a father, and we're all dads, I also understand he wants to be there for those moments with his son. But it's such a tough position to be in because we're not in that boat. Like he is in a unique situation. And I feel like 1 minute he says, I want my son to be a kid. Don't bring your cameras to his high school games. Don't bring your cameras to his AAU games. But then at the same time, you show up to his combine. You show up to his pro days. And of course, when you're there, cameras are going to follow you. So you're almost inviting them and saying, like, don't come here because I'm here. Like, you're a billionaire. You're not going to ever have that moment of anonymity ever again. And I think that that could be a little bit cringe. But other than that, man, like I never.
It's a weird situation where Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad, and also will probably never have a really good NBA career because of his dad, because he rushed him out of USC so he could play with him for a season. Well, but he never got to develop.
And Chris, again, I don't want to spoil the whole thing for you, but there is one scene where he obviously does attend a lot of the stuff, but they ask him, they go, do you, like, after every game, talk to your son about the way he played and break it down with him? He goes, I never do any of that. He was like, if he comes to me with a question, he was like, I'll talk to him about something. He's like, but I let him make his own mistakes and figure everything out on his own. So, maybe it is just he wants to watch.
How much of that is him just pandering to the camera, though?
But that's also part of you. But that's part of the hate too, where you want to say that you think that's what he's doing. But maybe he's. I don't know if he really. But to play devil's advocate, who panders more than Bryce Harper?
Bullshit.
Who panders more than Bryce Harper to play devil's advocate? And we all eat it up. All of us, we love it. But the Philly Fanatic socks, the Fanatic thing with his kids' names on it every day, the green bats, the Eagles shoes. Like, he does it more than anybody.
But just wait, real quick. When your kids are old enough to start playing sports, just wait. Just wait.
I'll be on board.
I coach Jack. I do it all the time. And I got to the point where after a few years, I started saying to Jackson in the car, like, I'll be like, yo, do you want me to like just tell you like good game, good job, or do you want me to point out a couple things I saw? And he'll tell me. And so sometimes he'll say, Dad, just like let's just like go home. Like I don't. I'm like all good, man. All good.
And that's fair. And I totally get that. And we have a guy that I coach with that his son is on the team, and he's very aware of it to the point where he's like, why don't I want you guys to coach him. I don't want anybody to say anything about me doing. And I'm like, dude, if he's one of the best guys out here, damn that, he's playing. Because he didn't want him to go both ways because he thought the parents would be like, oh, of course, one of the coach's sons is playing both sides. I'm like, we all talk about it. We're like, we don't care. Like, they'll have to come to us about it. He's one of the best kids out there. He's going to play. And so he's almost being over aware of it. And he does a similar thing with LeBron, where LeBron does with Bronny. He has his son call him coach. on the field instead of dad, and I respect that. And LeBron, Bronny said that he's got to call him Six or LeBron or whatever on the court, and that's fine. But
imagine if he said dad on the court.
Yeah.
Daddy.
All right, let's put a bow on this segment unless anybody else has one more they want to get out.
Well, yeah. Do you think that Michael Jordan's sons like nudged Mike on the couch watching it, like, bro, you couldn't help a brother out, like you couldn't get me into the league, you couldn't get me there?
No way,
man. Damn that.
No way. Those
you know what Mike said about them kids.
Yeah. They were just swimming in money, dude. Swimming in Jordans, doing whatever they wanted.
He got Scotty's wife, ex-wife.
Yeah.
A lot of people. I mean.
Yeah. Well, here's my last question. It's for the listeners. When are you going to make us a new intro? That's
desperately.
The last question.
Desperately need it.
Quickly before we wrap, we didn't talk about this. So I don't know if you guys are prepared. We got to do best bets.
Yeah, I got it.
So listen, you guys both had wins this week. I'm going to take no contest because I said the Giants only if neighbors played. I did say that. So I'll open it up. I'm going to take the Detroit Lions plus 2.5 against the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Lions are starting to get it together. Obviously, the loss of Hutchinson is a big deal. Vikings are coming off a bye, but look, at the end of the day, I think Darnold has been good, but I don't think a Sam Darnold team is ready to go 6-0 in this NFL. And I think the Lions are maybe the best team in the league right now, depending on if you want to go Kansas City, just because they have the history.
Minnesota beats them. Are they in the conversation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that's blatant disrespect to just not say them in that sentence when they just beat them and go to 6-0.
If I asked you who are your favorites to win the Super Bowl, would you pick the Lions or the Vikings?
What now or in the time?
Right now, like if I just say to you, who's more likely to come out of the NFC, the Lions or the Vikings?
Detroit. I don't believe in Minnesota a little bit, but I mean, just saying.
I'm taking the Lions plus the 2.5 in Minnesota.
They love Aiden though. That's a big loss off the field and on the field. So I'm curious to see their mental in that game.
Wouldn't be surprised if they went after Max Crosby or Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, Hassan for sure. Is Max Crosby available?
Shit, all right, Al.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna stick to my guns of just kind of looking. I looked through the lines here. The fishiest line I saw Sunday night. The Steelers at 4-2 are hosting the Jets, and the Steelers are getting 1.5 at home in a Sunday night game with the Jets coming off that battle against the Bills. I get that the Jets just signed Devontae Adams, but I don't understand how they're giving 1.5. So I'm taking the Jets giving 1.5 this week, and I'm going to try to win my third straight.
Well, did you see the news today? Did you see the news?
What?
Russell Wilson may get the start for the Steelers.
Oh, well, wait a minute now. Wait a minute.
Now, why would you now for that drop that beat?
Gotta backtrack. I'll stick with the pick. I'll take the Jets.
Straight cash, homie.
Well, that took a turn. Listen, I'm going to London to the Jaguars and Patriots.
In the mud. He's in the mud.
I'm going to make a go of it that the Jags are going to be on the good foot. And 5.5 point favorites. They're used to playing there. That's a home field for them. New England is obviously trash. They're going to be probably having their rookie quarterback again. And now you're asking them to play overseas, let alone on the road. And I don't even know if that dude's been out of this country before. I don't know what his deal is. 5.5 to me is just on the brink of feasible for me to see Jacksonville win this game by 6 or more. So I'm going to take Jacksonville based on the circumstances. Not that I'm big on the Jags, but I think that spot for them, I think that, hey, somebody got to win this game. And I think if they're going to win big based on New England's issues that they have.
That game has to be a stay away. I feel like Jacksonville's given up. And you got a New England team that might have a little bit of a resurgence with Drake May now under center, threw 3 touchdowns last week.
I don't think there's any bigger lock than if New England wins that game that Doug Peterson should just stay in England because it's over.
You think he's next?
They're going to make
it lose to New England. Yeah, I think he's probably next in line. Him or
Nick
on the hot seat. Who?
Sirianni?
I don't think they're firing Sirianni this year.
You know that Lurie's never hired a coach with NFL experience, prior head coaching experience. None of those guys ever that he hired, Ray Rhodes, Andy, Chip, Doug, this guy.
That's a good point.
They've never been a previous head coaching experience.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. Yeah, I don't think they're getting rid of Sirianni this year. I think I think Peterson's the next guy to go.
Okay.
All right. Gentlemen, next week, Sixers season preview. Sixers open the season next Wednesday. So clap your hands and get your notes together as we'll be talking Sixers basketball next week. But until then, we're going to drop that beat.
Bars.